doing some renovations and we've got a hole in the plaster wall and we want to just patch that rather than replace the whole wall. So what you want to do is you want to measure out the size of a patch that you want to have, and so just outside the scratch areas I've got about 240, got about 220, and what I'll do is I'll cut a piece of plasterboard as a patch size and then I'll use that to mark this out on the wall so it's exactly the size that I need. Once you know the size of the piece you need to patch the hole, you get a piece of spare plasterboard and you mark out that size that you need so that you can cut it out. The reason you start out with this piece is that it's going to be easier to make a patch or a hole in the wall to match the piece that you actually got rather than trying to do it the other way around. So that's my size I need. Get a good straight edge so you can cut out your piece of plaster. Just give it a light score. Quick snap and cut the backing paper. I want to do my other cut. Again, just scoring through the top layer of the paper. Give it a snap, slice the back. And you're left with the piece you need, and so that it's easier to make it fit in, just give the sides a bit of a scrape to clean that up. Because you do want the plaster to be square at the edge. It's also a good idea just to give those the edge of the paper just a light sand so that it's not going to stand clear out of the wall. That way when you tape it it'll be a little bit cleaner. Right, patch ready to go. So I've got my piece of patch cut and I want to line it up over the space that I want to remove from the wall. Then I just trace around that. So now that's the space that I'm going to cut out to put this patch into. And what you want for doing that is a wallboard saw. So to try and make sure we get this cut nice and clean, I'm going to actually cut through the paper as well with the knife, because I'm also cutting through paint. And I'm trying to do my cut on the inside of my ruler, just so that if I go slipping past where I want it to go, that's going to slip through in my scrap space. Okay, so that might make it just a little bit cleaner on the cutting edge. And then you've got a wallboard saw. Let's check the space we've got behind. Feels like we've got a bit of timber just above there. So now, a wallboard saw's got a sharp point so you can push it through to start with. Yes, I have got timber right behind. And just cut out the patch. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try and cut more of this with a knife. Basically removing this bit here. You can see I've got a noggin that's there, which is good because it means that there's going to be a nice solid surface behind my patch. It's not really enough to screw to the way I've cut it out. But it means it's going to have a good solid backing to it. There's another noggin there. The reason I've got these extra noggins is on the other side of this room, this wall, is the bathroom, and this one's being used for to hold the pipes for the tap work. And there's one of the stiffening rods in the wall for the framework of the house. My rod's stiffening strap. But because I've marked this out to the size of this patch, it's good because I know I've got something nice and firm there. Just trimming the edge of that paint makes it a little bit of a cleaner plaster job, so you don't have lumps where you're joining. Yeah, check it, but I'm not going to go showing straight into the hole. Try and make your hole as clean as possible. But it's not, I've got a very neat fit, it's not a perfect fit, and now it's going to be easy for me to shape my patch just a little bit so that I can get my patch to fit here perfectly. And rather than try and cut this down and have to make a bigger patch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of wood just in the back of here as an extra bracing for my patch so it won't push back into the wall. So I'll go get this ready and then we'll come back and set up the patch in there. So I've checked that my patch fits, it fits to size, and these beams aren't actually the supporting beams for the wall, it's actually the studs that are doing that, so that's got a little bit of movement in it. So I do want to have a piece of wood to go in behind to support my patch. So what I do, you slip it into your hole, put it around about the middle, and then screw that in, and you want to go close just so it'll be covered by your tape as well. Okay, so that's now the support from the plasterboard. I can now sit my patch in, and that's going to be supported by that. And again, depending on the size of your patch, if it's just a little one, you just put a screw right in the centre. I'm going to put them over the side so it's going to be covered by the tape. And make it a bit of a cleaner finish. Now if you can, for doing this sort of job, try and get like a plasterboard attachment for your drill. It's got the drive bit, but it's also got this collar around it, and that'll stop the drill from being pulled all the way into the plasterboard and reduces the chance of your screws being like tearing through the paper of your plasterboard. So I've now got that there. I just need to put my tape over it. Okay, there's two types of tape that you can use when you're plastering. One's a paper tape where you've got to put your plaster on, then wrap your paper tape on it. The other one is this fiberglass mesh tape. This is much easier to use. It's a little bit sticky, so you can just basically lay it over your joint, press it down. This will basically stop your plaster, or your patching plaster, from falling through your holes, and it gives a bit of strength to your joins as well. Overlap it a little bit at your corners, but not too much. If you do get any sort of little loose bits, like those sort of things, just pull them out so they don't impact on your plaster job. So now I just need to go over that with some plaster to patch up that hole. It'll be a few coats until I get a nice smooth finish over the wall. So I've got my plaster and I've got a decent sized spatula knife. Now your first coat doesn't need to be pretty, but you don't want to make it really messy. You want to cover your tape. And if you can you're still going to see the tape through the joint or through the plaster at the moment. But because this is just your first coat, that's fine. You're just basically getting the patch set in place. Just watch out for what happens to where the edge of your mat tape was, but you still will see the grit of that tape in there, and you don't want to have it any real big ridges, because if you do, then you've got a lot of sanding to do later. So that's the first set of the patch done. Once that's dry, light sand just to get this feathered off the edges, any big lumps. Do another coat of this one, and then my final one will be a top coat which will cover the whole area, just to try and get a nice big even patch repair. The plaster's had a chance to dry properly. I've given it a light sand to get the rough edges off and to feather it around, and now I'm going to do another coat of the plaster. So same thing, just spread it on, and this time going over the whole patch. Just make sure you've got the tape covered this time. And that's about it. Let that one dry, another light sand, and then a top coat, which is a thinner type of plaster. So I've just finished sanding this second coat of the plaster, and I recommend you get one of these larger hand sanders. It reduces the chance of you actually gouging in, like if you're using a smaller cork block. This gives you a bigger surface, it lets you feather it out at the edges. So I've got all my high spots down, and I've now got what's known as a topping coat, and I recommend you try and get a larger spatula for doing this sort of part so you can really spread it out, and just basically spread it right over, go a little bit out past where your patch was, And the larger blade will let you do your final spread over it in a much smoother fashion. And so when that's dry, that'll get a light sand over just to get it smooth and feathered out. And I'm in luck that I'm repainting this whole wall, so it's all going to be primed. The patch won't be noticeable at all.